immunoglobulins.
Replacement therapy.
So you gotta breathe, 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 breathe. Let it go and let it be.
Good morning, guys. We're getting ready to run out the door. We've got an early morning appointment at the hospital with Immunology to discuss IVIG, and I already put it in the car. It's our notes from the last hospital, and we're trying to get all this sorted out. So Mary was just printing some of her prints that she's donating to a CF fundraiser. We're gonna drop that off after our appointment, and now let's get out of here.
Woo!
Okay.
We are
done at the doctor.
That was a lot. So there's a lot about immunology that is a bit over my head.
Yeah, most of what she was saying was like, I was like,
When she said, does that make sense? I was like, sort of. I don't want to lie and say yes, but like I kind of get it. Here's the bottom line. If you're new here, hi. I have cystic fibrosis. It's a lung disease that I was born with. And having CF, my body is a little bit different, and that includes my immune system. So from what she said, from the blood work that she looked at from my previous
we
blood
brought
work,
our notes from back in, what year was that you started IVIG? 2017? 16. We brought those notes and she looked through that, and
it basically, she told us, here's what I suspect might be happening, and then she looked at I gave her the notes and she looked at those, and it basically confirmed what she had thought.
It's something that she's seen in patients with a history like Mary's. And just to catch you up to speed, so Mary's she's been on IVIG
3.5 years.
3.5 years for some abnormalities that the doctors in Boston saw with her immune system. When she started it in 2016, her health was at a pretty low spot, and we saw it over the course of 1.5 years, we saw it rebound while she was on IVIG, and so that was encouraging. And when we moved here to North Carolina, our new insurance was not covering.
I don't fit into the box. Like, my numbers, the one number that they want to see at a certain level, mine's normal of that, but abnormal in other levels.
Yeah.
And so because they only look at this number, they said, oh, she doesn't need IVIG. And my doctors are like, she's just different. So
yeah, and the doctors here, we haven't seen Immunology here, so it was just kind of her CF team prescribing the
overseeing it.
IVIG, because Mary's been on it and the team in Boston started it. Anyways, we hadn't seen Immunology here, and seeing the Immunology, they're like, we can get it approved.
Yeah.
They know what evidence to show.
Right.
But where we're at is Mary's hasn't had a dose since October 31st.
Right. So basically, this immunologist she was like, two things. We're gonna run a bunch of tests and make an informed decision if we continue IVIG or stop IVIG. And number two, we need to be able to prove to insurance that you need it. And she said, the second thing, proving it to insurance is she'll be able to do that. That's not a problem. I mean, my other blood work, it shows it. It's just, okay. But anyway, so that's not gonna be the problem. And deciding isn't a problem either.
Basically, I mean, the sense I got from that meeting was the sense I got was her saying, I think you need it.
Yeah.
But also, after we talked it through, we also realized that Mary's in a very different spot right now than she was back in 2016 when we were making that decision.
Right.
Where she is right now, she's in a much more stable spot. She's been off of IVIG for 3 months, hasn't had to go on treatments.
I went on antibiotics once, but
but like in terms of stability of health, at a much better spot. And so we felt like, let's gather all the information and kind of reassess.
Right.
Does it make sense to continue? And if so, then we'll come up with a plan for that. So
it was interesting to hear her talk about other patients, not specifically, but in general, a population of patients who tend to have tricky immune systems. It makes sense that you have reactions to antibiotics. It makes sense that IVIG therapy is a good idea and helpful in many different ways. It makes sense. Like, everything was this is what it felt like. I didn't feel like a freak patient. Like, wait, you're having what issues? Your blood work says what? She was like, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. So that was really helpful to not have to like explain all the weirdness of my body. She just kind of said that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think like the observations that the team in Boston had made sense to her, and
right.
So anyways, we felt like we were on the same page with her as terms of we've got some wiggle room right now in terms of Mary's stability to run these tests. It's going to take like 3 to 5 weeks to get the blood work and the testing that they want to get. Number one, if we decide to continue, to be able to show to insurance. And number two, if everything looks good at this point, like...
She said, if your numbers are all perfect, then maybe your immune system learned.
Yeah.
And maybe it's doing better.
Yeah.
So in that case, we probably wouldn't continue.
Yeah.
Which would be so nice. Like, part of me is a little bit like, I mean, it's you know, an IV infusion every 3 weeks. One thing I'm curious, we didn't get this far in the conversation, but asking if we could space it out, like do IVIG every 4 or 6 weeks instead, or something like that, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
One of the biggest differences between our conversation today and my last 3.5 years, you guys know that we do IVIG at home. We're completely independent with my port care, and so IVIG is no different. I am equipped with epinephrine and you know, the just in case of a reaction stuff, and so we've safely done it at home. Here in North Carolina, apparently that is not an option. And so that means you either have a home nurse come and sit and watch you for 4 hours while you're drugged on Benadryl and doing IVIG, which is not my favorite thing in the world, or you go to an infusion center and do it. Or you switch to SubQ, subcutaneous immunoglobulins. It's not through your port, it's a needle into your like skin, like your fat, somewhere around here. My sister actually is on SubQ IG.
In fact, we showed a video of that one time.
So click here if you want to watch that.
I guess the benefit of that is you don't have the 4-hour Benadryl, Tylenol coma every 3.5 weeks.
Yep.
But you also have to stab yourself every couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think some people are on it weekly and some people are on it bi-weekly. Mm-hmm. Like every 2 weeks. So these are all like options. These are things to think about. I'm totally open to trying SubQ. From what I know of it, I'm used to IVIG. You stick it in the port, it's done. So I'm just, you know, I'm used to IVIG. I would prefer to just stick with that. But if that's not an option the way we've been doing it,
we'll explore the options. And what we're talking about is basically just different modes of delivering IVIG. Like, Mary has a port, so it made sense when we started to use that port and get the infusion. But for people without ports, it makes a lot of sense to do SubQ.
She also mentioned injection form, so like a shot. But I'm curious, because it wouldn't be the same volume, because you couldn't do a shot of the volume.
But I think she was saying that was like another scenario of usage of IVIG, like a recovery, or like, I don't know.
Well, people who are around rabid animals, they have to do shots of IVIG.
Okay, maybe that's...
Maybe.
Anyways, we were just talking about all these different modes, but whether it's SubQ IG or it's all immunoglobulins.
Replacement therapy.
And,
IGRT is what she called it.
Yeah, and which is the antibodies that a normal immune system body creates through encountering things in the environment and whatever. But in immune compromised people, or rather immune deficient people,
Right.
I think that would probably be the better
One
terminology.
I didn't realize this, but so your immune cells, is that the right word? Your immune system has different cells.
Yeah.
And she was explaining it like this. Some people have the cells, but they are not educated cells.
Mm-hmm.
They are like amateur or like immature, naive cells. They're supposed to have elementary school, middle school, high school, and even college and a PhD. But when
in terms of knowing what to do with, say, a bacteria or a pathogen or whatever.
Right. But in my cells, she looked at the blood work and said, okay, so this is, you have the cells, but they are naive.
They're all elementary school students, she said.
Which is not the best. So, all of that to say, we learned a lot. She's gonna run a bunch of tests and make a decision about the best course of action, and we will follow that, and we will do it, and we will see.
And so we'll meet back
comes.
with the immunology in like 3 to 5 weeks, and after all that testing comes in, and make a decision. Do we continue? If so, how? And how do we get it covered? All the things.
And then I asked her about flying and her recommendations, because we wear masks when we fly. And what?
Did you notice her like, and what are you going for? Like, kind of like, do you have to fly?
Oh yeah.
But
she basically said gloves are a good idea, because people touch everything. And then I asked her, I said, I usually bring Lysol or Clorox wipes, but I was thinking about bringing like hospital grade wipes. And she said Lysol or Clorox or alcohol is all that's sufficient. But she mentioned, like, when you go to the bathroom, don't touch, wash your hands and then don't touch anything. Use a paper towel to open the door and all of that, because germs. And just basically like wear gloves, wear a mask, and sanitize your seat completely. So that's what we're gonna do, and
yeah,
we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
So that's the update from that visit. It was a lot.
It was a lot. So we're going to grab some breakfast. It's still pretty early in the morning, and
as always, we'll see you tomorrow.
Good night. And Ollie's at home, so we'll say good night to him when we get home.
Oh, you're so silly. Oh, you're so silly. Good night. And good night. Are you enjoying that heater vent?